Hey, Patrick.
Yeah. I guess I'll just have to do with speaker, which is fine.
Okay. Yeah, which is exactly what the speaker was picking up. So you sound exactly the same. So the earphones weren't working at all.
Right.
Okay. But well, Patrick, I just want to catch up with you because I haven't really kind of seen you in a while and kind of, I know you finished your fat loss phase and then kind of chat with you also about the muscle gain phase. But we'll just kind of wing it. It's like not a serious
Yeah.
podcast, just kind of coffee shop chatting with people. And we'll just start with kind of going over, what you were struggling with before you started the program, then the 5 or 6 months of the program, like month to month, your experiences, your struggles with it, what you liked, what you didn't like, what kind of changes you saw in your body, your blood work, and all that stuff. And then at the end, everyone always has a unique story. So I want to kind of ask you a few questions about just like random topics, and we'll kind of expand from there. Is that
Right.
cool?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so let's rewind way back and kind of what was going on before you started the program, what kind of struggles you were having, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, I think before we uh, started the program, right? I think for me it was I was going to gym regularly. I was still doing 5 days workout every week, and I used to cook my own food meals, and I was very particular about um, eating what I was making rather than going out and such. So I didn't have issues with that, but for some reason I was not seeing the results I wanted. And I think, if you remember in our first assessment, that's what I was talking about. Like, the main thing I want to gain out of this was the science of nutrition. And that part was severely lacking for me, because, like you said, eating healthy is one thing, but eating, the right uh, food, or the right, or getting those macros right, is the key. So that was uh, what I was most excited about, rather than the whole workout and the transformation. Of course, that was obviously going to happen joining all this. But like I said, like, workouts I have been doing, so there was like nothing new, except for like different kinds of uh, workouts for different muscles. But um, that part, like, is more like, you find it online all the time.
Mhm.
You can find workouts for specific muscle groups, specific uh, kind of body, and all those things. But it's very hard to find something with nutrition that kind of works where you are, and then changing that based on what kind of phase you're going through. So for me, that was the most key and essential aspect of going into this.
Do you find like from uh, I guess from a consumer's perspective, in the sense that you're consuming health and fitness information, do you find the internet like more of an aid or more of a hindrance and a level of confusion? Because I find these days, you type in, oh, how to eat for fat loss, and you'll get this one credible resource that says do this thing, and then another equally credible resource that says like do the complete opposite of this guy,
Right.
and then a third guy that says like, oh, both of these guys are retarded, don't listen to them, you got to do this thing. Like, how do you feel like these days? Do you feel like the
Yeah.
social media and the internet are more of a help or a hindrance?
So there is, it depends on how you consume it and how you are looking at it. So there is, like I said, a lot of information, right, on different diets, everything. But the thing is, uh, doing that consistently, like that being part of your diet, is what the key is. And like I said before, like watching the macros, you don't necessarily do that when you're on certain diet, like keto or paleo or whatever other diet is, right? You're not really watching the macros. You may be watching like one of them, but not all of them. And I think that has changed for me a lot. And that's what I really wanted to gain out of this program, was more so about that. But coming back to like all the other information, right? Like, even like I know a lot of my friends who follow someone on Instagram, like influencer, and do those workouts. But to a level, you may gain something out of it, but it can't be consistent, and then it can't be like, you know, you can keep doing it over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Because you really don't know the science behind that,
Mm-hmm.
what's working. And just because it's working for now doesn't mean it will keep working. And even if later on it doesn't work, you don't have the means to know like what isn't working to tweak that for it to work for you. So I think all those parts were missing for me. But to your point, yeah, there's ton of information, and if like me going back now to seeing all those articles, information, and videos, I could tell like what is, you know, probably more credible and what is going to work and what is not going to work and such. But before then, yeah, I think it's like just another information source of information where you don't know necessarily if it's going to work or not. Um, so I guess you just keep trying different things, and then you see something contradictory to the plan that you have, and then again you are confused, and maybe you are thinking like, oh, this was lacking in that particular thing. But I think it would take like a lot of trials and errors and such. Even then, you may not figure out. It's so much out there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, you're right. So yeah, but it could be hindrance depending on how much you um, know and how much you gather out of it. And it could help if you have good sense of like what's working for you, and then you learn something new and you try to adapt that. Then I think it's a. So yeah, I think it just depends.
Well, with what you know now, finishing a successful transformation and actually knowing what to do and having those systems so that the journey is predictable. What are some, like, if you were to go online, what are some red flags for you now that you could instantly tell, like, okay, that's BS, that's not going to work. Just that way the listeners can know as well.
Right.
That way they don't waste a lot of time following the wrong people or the wrong information.
Yeah, so I think it's just certain kind of diet, right? If someone's saying like, "Hey, I'm doing keto diet or a paleo diet or whatever other diet it is, or just on carnivorous diet or just vegan diet," all of that will be working for you until a certain point. Like you would see like maybe few pounds dropped, but it's not like you would see like 20 pounds dropped over, certain period of time, like how you have been able to do on your program, right? So that is definitely something red flag for me is like if someone says like just being on this diet, I'm able to like, lose certain pounds. But again, are you able to do it like for years?
Hmm.
And and most importantly, are you where you want? Just losing few pounds or several pounds is not what someone's goal is. Like you want to look really, really toned, or you want to look really, really bulky or muscled, or whatever your goal is, right? Maybe really, really, uh, I don't know, shredded, slim, whatever it is. So to get there, I don't think just following some diet works. It may work in helping lose some weight, but not help you gain the body of your dreams, or the aesthetics that you're going for.
Hmm. Yeah, I also find one of the issues with following information online is it like you mentioned, like you hinted at like a second ago, it works when you kind of know what to look for. That way you know
Right,
what will work and not work and know how to fit it into a grander strategy. You know
right,
what I mean? Instead of having just like, oh, here's what you do for 2 weeks, but then like, dude, my life is going to be hopefully longer than 2 weeks. Like, what do I do after the 2 weeks is up? Or what do I do after this 30-day fat loss challenge is up or something of that sort? I find
right,
like one of the biggest problems with following people online is even if they happen to be actually very competent and a credible resource, they just kind of never met you personally. They
correct.
don't know like your exact circumstance. And because nature is a novelty generator, there's no two of you, there's no two of me, there's not even like two of the same grains of sand on the
Right.
planet. So obviously everyone's approach is going to be different, even if their goal on the surface looks the same. Like this guy wants to lose 20 pounds and this guy wants to lose 20 pounds. But the reason of why person A gained 20 pounds could be completely different from the reason of why person B gained 20 pounds. So their approaches need to be way different. And because obviously the influencer doesn't know you, never met you, doesn't know your unique challenges, they just don't, they wouldn't know. Like, give me one sec. I'm going to get some coffee really quick. Someone's bringing me coffee. My secretary.
Uh,
Not really, just my partner. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Lisa. Okay. Sorry about that. So they just don't know you and your unique circumstance. And the other issue is um, most people these days, they have various problems that are leading to that one symptom, like fat gain in this case, in our conversation here. So the issue, in order to be resolved, it needs to be approached in a multidimensional way. Like with you, for example, in your coaching program, we covered way more than just nutrition and working out, which is
right.
typically what a person would focus on if they want to like aesthetically improve their body or just change their blood work for the better. But those are very like symptom management approaches that will, like you kind of mentioned also in the beginning, maybe get you somewhere short term, but
Right.
it'll never create lasting change. And if you look at the statistics, 80 to 90% of people that lose any amount of weight end up regaining all of it within a 3 to 4 year period. Just because, in my opinion, and from my observation doing this for 17 years already, they really do just approach it from that nutrition and that workout perspective, which kind of gives them a bit more like false hope in
Right.
the sense that like that's really all I have to do, but it's usually a lot more. And we'll kind of discuss a lot more of those topics. I'd like to get your opinion on them on this chat. But let's do this. So first of all, you guys, before I continue, just know like what we talk about here has worked for Patrick alone. And we did like together like at least a 2 or 3 hour assessment before I even wrote out like a program for him, just to find out his unique challenges and what works for him. So just because it works for him doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. Okay. And the only way to really know what works for you is to get like a comprehensive assessment as well. And to give you a rough idea, usually does take like 2 to 3 hours to thoroughly assess like even a healthy person, which Patrick was. He didn't come in with a myriad and five pathologies that we had to address. In that case, the assessment might have even been longer. So one huge red flag, I mean, if you're buying a pre-made program online and they never met you, that's a huge red flag. That's the same as like showing up to like a doctor's office and they don't even know what's going on with you. And they're like, here, take this medication. I'm like, yo, dude, you didn't even ask me what's going on with me. Like, how are you prescribed? That's basically what's happening with those pre-made programs for the most part. And also, if you just go to your doctor's office or you go hire a personal trainer and they just do like a quick Q&A and then here, sign this waiver and they're giving you uh, a solution to your problem, I personally would just quickly run the other way because either this person just doesn't care about you or they're not competent enough to give you a proper assessment, which would inevitably lead to a proper diagnosis, which would, oh, we lost Patrick again, which would inevitably, I'm going to get him to join here, which would inevitably lead to a proper conclusion. And you could only gain an answer to a right conclusion. If you have a wrong conclusion or a wrong hypothesis, you can't develop a right answer based off that, obviously. So let's wait for Patrick to come back in here and then we'll kind of, we'll continue from there. So this time I got my reception on point. So I'm glad I fixed that issue because it was an issue for a few lives. John, good to see you. Joshua, let's see. I recently went to the doctor to get testosterone treatment because I am incredibly weak. And I was told I was high levels of testosterone. I was so frustrated and annoyed that I can't figure out why I can't ever do a simple full workout. Well, Josh, there's a lot of things to consider there outside of your total testosterone, obviously. Remember, your body is made up of out of a system of systems. So you got a lot going on. And if any of those systems are lagging, they tend to, over a long enough period, have a dragging down effect on all your other systems as well. So you can't like think with any kind of health problem in general, whether it be a mental problem or a physical health problem, you can't think like single variables. You can't think like, oh, all I have to do is just change this one little thing and um, everything will work out. That kind of approach, that isolationist approach might actually get you some short-term results, maybe, and that's a rough maybe. But long term, you'll always run into plateaus and obstacles, and most always, like what I see, is revert back to uh, your old behavior and stuff of that sort. So send me a PM, and I can kind of throw some ideas back and forth in terms of how it specifically relates to you, and we can kind of iron it out from there. Okay, let me try to get Patrick on board. Unable to add a request. You can't add to your broadcast while a user is connecting. Okay, let me send him. Huh, strange. Let me do this. Yeah, so John, good to see you as well. Haven't seen you for a while. John is one of my former clients. I mean, it's been quite a while. Good to hear that your hypertension and cholesterol are under control. That's a huge plus. Hey, Patrick, can you hear me?
Yeah, I don't know
Don't
what
worry.
happened. If it was my network or I just got kicked out.
No, don't worry. It's not a big deal. So let's do this. Let's start off with kind of what I mentioned, you guys. So I did a thorough assessment on him. It was roughly, I don't even remember. It's been 5 or 6 months since we did it, but it lasted, I'm sure, at least like 2.5 to 3 hours. Okay, before we even wrote this stuff out, and everything we describe here is related to him and has worked and what has worked for him. So let's start off with one question I have to ask you, Patrick, is what was your take on hiring an online coach versus an in-person coach before you even started the program?
Um, I don't know really. Like I wasn't really looking for, a trainer or a coach. Like I had done before, like free training, 1 day training assessments and sessions like that, but nothing where someone claimed that I could really be um, where I am right now. So you were the first person that I saw through Facebook group where um, you had these many clients, and that really made me believe that this could work. And like if there was something, just someone said like, "Oh, I can, make you fit," I would be like, I don't really know. Like unless someone guarantees me like, okay, this is the aesthetic that you would end up having at the end of 5, 6 months. That was more of a reassuring thing for me to, you know, hire or to get on with this journey. Um, and it helps when you say like you have these many successful clients, so that really speaks or reassures clients that they may be able to be where they want. So uh, for me, this didn't really matter if it was online or in person, because like I said, I was very disciplined even before joining this group about going to workouts and always keeping up with uh, my workout sessions. Like I wouldn't miss unless I'm sick. So I didn't have problem with motivation or that part. Like I said, my most important thing that I was lacking with me was nutrition, and I knew that, and I needed help with that in specifically, um, because I knew once that's addressed, I have all that takes to, just going to workouts and doing the uh, other workouts that would come with the program. Um, so yeah, and the nutrition part, like doesn't matter if it's someone telling me over phone or um, someone's sitting right next to me.
Yeah, and I find what you said there like actually extremely important because a lot of people don't know the industry secrets of like the coaching industry, like personal training, nutritionists, all of that stuff.
Right.
Like basically, you don't need like a diploma certification to be like a personal trainer or nutritionist. You just simply say you're a personal trainer or nutritionist, and that's really about it. And honestly, if you guys don't believe me, just simply do a Google search. It's definitely the case. It might vary a little bit from state to state, but I guarantee you, like 90% of states, it's definitely the case. Anyone can kind of claim anything. Any gym enthusiast can claim anything. And that's it. You kind of take their word for it. So one way to see through that is just to see if the person really genuinely has like a lot of credible testimonials. Uh, because it doesn't really matter for the most part if they're in shape. You're not paying them for them to stay in shape. You're paying them hopefully to get you in shape or to resolve some health issue and stuff of that sort. So some red flags I notice is like if their whole entire profile and personalities revolved around them, that's already like a huge red flag, especially if they're bragging about how like good their systems are. Because in my opinion, if their systems are really good, how come they're not showing how much it's helped and influenced people if they're a true influencer? It's not all about you. So if they just have pictures of themselves, that's already a huge red flag for a lot of reasons. But one of the reasons is like, dude, if your stuff works, where are all your transformations? Where are all your success stories? And if there aren't any, and they're claiming they've trained X amount of thousands of people and they have one or two photos of like a semi okay transformation on their page and mostly pictures of themselves, I don't know, man. I got to really question the integrity there and how good their program really is. And also, honestly, diplomas don't mean anything either for the most part. I mean, college degrees these days is basically like it's harder to get into the military than it is to get in college most of the time. Like, if you can basically pay for college, you can get into college and get good enough grades to actually get your diploma, and it really doesn't mean much. And I'm saying that from an honest perspective, having like myself graduated with actually like a very high GPA. And I can honestly tell you, I've learned pretty much everything that applies to my work directly in my life, like outside of college, not actually in college. And I'm sure many people that excel in their career would agree with that. But Patrick, let's kind of break it down 1 month at a time. I know it's been a while, but if we can kind of think back, how was the first month? What kind of challenges did you have? What kind of results did you see there? And we'll kind of go step by step. So you guys, Patrick had a 5 month fat loss phase, and now he just recently started like a lean muscle gain phase that's going to go on indefinitely, basically. So that's the order of what we're covering here.
Yeah, I very much remember since the first day, and I probably remember for a long time because
Might be that traumatic, you know?
not at all.
Just kidding.
It was a really great experience because I was excited going into this. Like I said, because for me it was about the knowledge and science more so than the transformation. And I remember specifically telling you about the same thing. Like it's I really want to know like how to keep doing this forever rather than getting this body for summer or for 6 months or a year. So yeah, going back to, I think for me, I was really, really driven. And since like I knew this is what I wanted to be focused and stay disciplined, I was really following it religiously. So it was a slight change because, you're, I, I had very uh, sweet tooth basically, but like for me it was dark chocolate and my cravings. I had to like suppress for a week, couple of weeks maybe, and then after that, I think my body was adjusting to like not having that much sweet every time. And I think once that was set, after a couple of weeks, I didn't even have cravings, and I still had all that dark chocolate stash for months in the drawer, and I didn't feel like having it. Um, so, yeah, for me, it wasn't really hard because, like I said, I wasn't used to eating out. Even before then, I was cooking my own food, and I wasn't really using a lot of other fat foods either. So for me, that wasn't a big adjustment. In fact, I was looking forward to that because I knew I was eating, um, what, like healthy sort of. But I necessarily wasn't counting calories, which is really the science of it. So although I was cooking everything from raw, I wasn't buying store-bought stuff and all. So for someone who are used to that, for them it's a bigger adjustment. For me, that wasn't really an adjustment. It was about knowing what to eat and knowing how I can change that based on where we are. And I remember reevaluating once when I was dropping too fast in the first few couple of weeks. And that's one of the things that helps, because if you're following someone, they are just probably going to post like, a cookie cutter diet plan, meal plans, and maybe on that plan you may lose certain pounds, but you don't need like necessarily know how to efficiently keep doing that and how to tweak that if you want to like slow the pace or fast may like gain those or lose those pounds faster. So I think knowing how to count calories and watch those calories is what really was fun for me rather. So it was really and then it felt good because when you get like into that pattern of like giving into cravings, sometimes it's hard to stop,
Hmm.
after a certain point. Like, if you have a bag of candies, cookies, chocolates, whatever your cravings are, uh, it's if you have a rough day and, if you give into it, you may finish the whole bag, versus staying on this and having that consistent uh, diet and eating, same thing over and over again. I think that helped me uh, to also control cravings whenever, if say I had it once in few weeks, um, I would know to like stop it because like my body would also reject it at one point and say like, no, this is enough. Versus before when my body was used to having it every day, it was very easy to overdo it and overeat. So it helped me in that way.
Two things in the industry that are generally frowned upon, but like work every single time with my clients. And you guys know what I'm saying is true because I post so many testimonials in this group consistently. Is like, let's break these down one at a time and how it actually helped you. First, people frown upon taking your weight daily. They're like, don't do it, it's going to discourage you. And I agree, like if the program sucks and you're not seeing any changes, of course it's going to discourage you. But if you're on an actually good program that's working, if anything, it just encourages you. And also taking your weight daily just helps further give you good objective feedback on how your behaviors and actions during the day impact your weight, which is huge because oftentimes weight gain or loss is just like you mentioned, a mystery to most people. They don't know like what to do or what's causing it. I mean, in short, basically they're causing it, but what they're doing in particular that's causing it. So can you talk about your experience of let's start off with taking your weight daily, because I know I had you do that first thing in the morning on an empty stomach every single day, and how that actually helped you stay accountable and on track.
Yeah, for me, that was not an issue at all. And I don't know why it would be an issue for someone because you have nothing to lose, right? If anything at all, like that would tell you where you're at. So it's not like because you're doing it every day, it's going to mess up the program or anything, right? It's just you being aware of where you are every day. So for me, that wasn't really like it didn't matter. And after a point, it was like kind of a routine, like how you would brush your teeth. Is to just it's just few seconds. So and I still do it, and I'll probably do it forever, regardless of where I am. Even when I am, as ripped as uh, have the best body and best physique, I would not probably stop it doing. Um, So, yeah, I think it's just as I would relate it to seeing yourself in the mirror, right? If you see it every day, I don't see a problem with like weighing every
Mm.
day. Uh, it's not going to change anything if at all you realize, and maybe you know like you are putting on, and that would help you to kind of do something about it. Or if you're losing too fast, it will help you do something about it. So yeah, I think for me it's rather a good habit now, just stepping on the scale every day.
Yeah, and for you guys that like don't fall for that, oh, the scale isn't changing because I'm gaining too much muscle and I'm losing too much fat. You know, that's why the weight is staying the same. Don't fall for that BS. There are very, very minor exceptions to that happening. I mentioned them in extensive detail in another video, but don't fall for that BS. You can lose body fat so easily at any age, but muscle gain, especially after kind of the newbie gains phase is over, it's a very, very slow process. So even if you were to gain some muscle, let's say you lost 25 pounds of body fat and excess water retention in like a 5 month period, and you gained 5 pounds of muscle, you'd still be negative 20 pounds total. You know, so the weight actually would still continue to go down and be visible on the scale. So I see that with a lot of in-person trainers tricking their kind of naive clients, unfortunately. They're like, well, you know, Jenny, you're doing great. The scale isn't changing because you're just gaining too much muscle. You're like a monster. You know, you're a genetic monstrosity. Not the case. Not gaining too much muscle, just not gaining, just not losing any fat. Also, just not seeing any progress, period. Uh, and that's it. That's literally what's happening. And also, like another thing I wanted to ask you, Patrick, is how do you feel? Another thing that's frowned upon is getting clients to count their calories and stuff of that sort, which I created a software to make it so easy for clients to do in an Excel sheet, basically. But again, that's frowned upon. But I've only seen like miraculous results with teaching clients how to do this in a very, very easy and time economical way. I was just wondering what your experience with that was.
I mean, that was really life changing for me, right? That's the most important thing I was looking to gain is knowing how I can really, really control, my what goes into my mouth, and that way be able to um, like get 100% or no 100% if I'm going to lose weight or gain weight depending on where I want to be. So that is really knowing the secret of losing weight or gaining weight or anything about that, because it's I think what you put in your mouth is what is really going to um, change. So if you know what's going in, I think half the battle is won there, rather than doing myriad of other activities and exercises to burn that. So to understand how much you even need to burn is to probably first know how much of that food added to calorie intake.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think for me, that was the most important thing that I wanted to learn and have control over. Because going to gym and working out, everyone knows, like if you want to do like, legs exercises or back or arms, you know what kind of, machines to use or free weights to use. Even if you don't, it's really easy to look up online, and there's really no science to it. Like, if you're doing like arms, there are only so many things you can do for arms, and it will work out if you're doing it consistently. But with the nutrition is where it really takes it to the next level, because if you're looking to gain more muscle, and that particular muscle, if you're not eating right, even if you're going and just lifting, you may not see the result, or it will take like years to see the result when it should be seen in like reasonable amount of time. um, Same with like losing weight, right? If you don't really know like what to eat, and if you're not in caloric deficit, you're never going to lose weight regardless of how much time you spend in the gym, what kind of exercises you're doing. You're just doing hours of crunches or hours of cardio or hours of lifting. If you don't know how much you need to eat,
Mm-hmm.
then you're losing half the effort, or complete effort, because I think nutrition is all like that's the basic that's the fuel. Uh, so yeah, I think that was magical for me, and I'd probably keep doing that. Well, after a point, it's kind of like you already have decided until you decide to change because you want to lose or gain or whatever it is. But it's only for the first few times that you tweak, and then it's just like it probably takes few minutes
Hmm.
uh, whenever you want to change something or add something. So I think that's really game changer, like counting calories and nutrition part. And I always knew that even before, joining this group. And I just didn't have someone to um, trust that this is the most efficient way and this is how it works. And so I really wanted to gain that knowledge and information.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning into the podcast. I'm curious, have you ever been confused by the labels in the grocery store? In Yevgeny's book, he demystifies the difference between caged, cage-free, free-range, and pasture-raised meats. He also covers how to avoid GMOs, source high-quality water, fish, supplements, and other related topics. It's a beautifully illustrated, non-technical read that comes with a comprehensive video series and other extended learning materials. Jump on Amazon and check out the book titled Anti-Factory Farm Shopping Guide by Eugene Trufkin. Now let's dive back into the podcast.
Yeah, it still kind of boggles my mind when people are like, oh, I can't lose. Now, the human being is a system of systems. There are a myriad of reasons for why something happens, especially when you start diving into the self-sabotaging behavior of fat gain, for example. Then it's like basically an endless web of connections and inferences upon inferences, et cetera, et cetera. But it still boggles my mind. It's like people that say like, oh, I tried like 0-calorie diets and I can't lose weight. I'm like, oh, really? Like your body can survive on 0 calories? Okay, then why are you even buying food and eating it? Like wouldn't that save you a lot of money? I mean, you're not going to lose weight if you don't eat food. Or better yet, like, oh, like why don't you go get lost in a forest and not have any food available? And let's see, uh, I'll come pick you up in like 4 weeks and we'll see how your weight's doing.
Yeah,
Although their hormones haven't changed, nothing has changed. All of a sudden, I bet you they're going to be like 15 pounds lighter, if not way more, if they're still alive,
right.
rather. And it's still kind of like, I think it's this whole entire, like, it kind of dives into a little bit of confusion because of the internet. You have a lot of people, even some with degrees, say important, and then also,
Regardless of what's on internet and what's not, I would say like knowing, um, how like being in caloric deficit, like just knowing that and be able to adjust your diet based on the macros is the key for anything. And most people don't even know that. Like they don't have the knowledge of it at all.
mhm,
Like, okay, yeah, avocado is a source of good fat. You all the meats are source of good fat, but the portion, right, the amount, um, like even like just a burger if you had, right, like not no one really cares about knowing like how much protein you got from that, how much carbs you got from that, how much fats you got from that. And everyone who just follows certain diet, they basically don't know how, but like what you ate, basically, like how many calories you consumed and how much micros uh, or macros you got from that. So, and I was being told like I was in a good shape even before I started this program, which I knew I
right?
wasn't because I was looking myself in mirror without clothes and I could see myself. And that's what I still tell, all my friends who watched me go through this process is like, I am surprised like you thought like you weren't really fit then. And I was like, I knew I wasn't. That was the whole plan why I wanted to do something about it and change it. And I knew where things were lacking. I knew I was working out every day. And it was really the nutrition part that I wanted to learn and add add to this process. And I knew once I have that under control, this was going to happen, because I was putting in all the effort. But something was missing out of that. And so to your point, like most people who are following these diets, they don't know how to really what to eat and how to calculate and be in caloric deficit. And that is where you would, fall into all these diets. It's all about uh, ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
Then and that ignorance leads to misinformation and misunderstandings and all those things, right? Once you know like how to be in caloric deficit and how to count calories, you're never going to follow a diet,
Yeah.
because you are only going to follow what you have planned out, not like just eating meat or just eating, vegan or anything. And you, if you are vegan, that is fine too. But what to eat is, important. Like just because you're vegan, you can't just be like really eating, cakes and such. That's not going to help. You should really know like what kind of food would add to that many calories, and consistently be able to maintain doing that. So yeah, I think 90%, like a lot of like I would say none of my friends know how to be in caloric deficit, right? People know like, oh, if I have to lose weight, I have to be in caloric deficit. But what that really means and what you need to do for that,
Mm-hmm.
people don't know. It's not just like eating less and working out more. It is about eating right and
Mm-hmm.
still working out. So yeah, I think it's just people don't know. Like, and I didn't know until you basically helped me with that. So
Yeah, and I bet like out of like all your friends that probably go to the gym as often as you do, like how many of them have changed in the last 5 months, like visually?
and
Probably.
even if you change, it's not that they are happy or you know, that's their potential or that's where they want to be. They may have lost a few pounds and then again gained
Yeah,
some. So it's unpredictable, right? And they cannot even predictably do it every time. They'll probably just eat less and see like few pounds drop. That's all. But they don't know like they can't really pinpoint like what particular diet works for them and they will consistently lose weight or they will consistently add muscle following that plan.
exactly. And you hit it on the nail there. And honestly, to overcome that problem, the average person literally has only two solutions. And that's it. They don't have like any other solutions. And if you don't do either one of these, or most likely a combination of both, like just don't expect any change, and it's okay. Not the end of the world, but just don't get frustrated when you don't see any change and kind of beat yourself up. And basically here they are. I mean, in short, it's like you could become your own mechanic. I'm a huge advocate of self-education, but just know self-education isn't checking out random videos on TikTok. Like seriously read like 2 to 3 credible books every month on the subject you're looking to get better at.
Right.
Take some courses every year, like 1 or 2 courses, credible courses. I'd recommend start with the books first so you can get a good understanding. That way you can kind of weed out the bad courses from the good courses. And then eventually, you know what, you're going to hire a mentor, because especially if they're good, nothing's going to help you more than having a person that spent like 17 or 20 years mastering it, showing you how to do it in like 4 or 5 months. So you don't have to waste 17 or 20 years figuring out how to do that. Your other solution, if you don't want to invest that much time, but you do want the results, is literally just hire a mentor. But just make sure they're the right ones. And like we talked about in the beginning, your real only hope is just hire a person that has a lot of very successful testimonials to show that their product work. It has to go way above and beyond them just being in good shape and in good health, and they're the center of attention on social media. Make sure they're putting their clients as the center of attention and the success of their clients. That's what actually an influencer does. Show how their work is actually influencing people to change in the real world with different people with different life circumstances and challenges and stuff of that sort. It's not about them. It should be about their client and their client's success and stuff of that sort. Um, yeah. And I also to talk about like the fad diets, like especially like I find fasting and keto, fasting's probably like the worst success rate of all. And then keto, like I just find that people don't look that good, even if they somehow manage to lose weight. And also their blood work is extremely poor, usually with their cholesterol like all over the place. I don't know if you've experienced that with seen that with some of your
Right.
friends or
I'll share this, right? Like so especially in my family, so being Hindu, right? There are fasting, which is done for religious purposes, right? And so I watched my mom, my grandmother, even my dad, like fast for decades, right? Since I was alive, and nothing changed.
yeah,
And they
they're like
they fasted all days, and in some religions you do it for like 12 days or 15 days, I think. I remember like Ramzan or one of those festivals you do it, and it doesn't help because you have to eat. You cannot just not eat. And I think interval fasting is still acceptable because you have like other interval of the day where you can still consume the calories and eat. But like fasting all day is just unacceptable unless, I don't know, you just have, you're obese and you're overweight. And even then it will work only until certain point. Um, and you'd probably be weak. Like you want to lose weight, staying healthy
mm,
and functioning, not being weak, right? Like you don't want to be like out of energy, exhausted just to get there. Like it shouldn't be a tiring process, or otherwise you're not gonna keep doing it, or it's not gonna be efficient. So yeah, I but that again goes back to the point, the ignorance, right? People don't know. It's lack of right information, and um, may- maybe if someone wants to get like, if I think the other option of not hiring coach is probably doing like a nutrition certification or something like that, and learn the whole course.
mhm.
uh, Maybe that's the other option, but it's only two of these options if you really want to um, be really fit and stay that way predictably, be able to maintain the physique you want.
Yeah, and you mentioned some two things. So you mentioned first the one thing about like fasting or any fad diets is I find people are just living in extremes. First of all, they're obese or eating very shitty, and their body's like confused on what the hell is going on, highly inflamed. They're just a mess all around, and then they do the extreme opposite, and they just stop eating any food, and the body's even more confused now. And it's like, dude, it sends them up into whirlwinds of disaster. And I can tell you guys from 17 years, I can 100% tell you anything that's mainstream, I would personally ignore right away. Because in order for it to be mainstream, it has to be dumbed down in order to be accepted by the populace. And like I mentioned in the beginning of the call, no, even the most minor of health, or even the most minor of physical or mental health problems, there is no quick solution. There is no just do this one thing and it'll all work out. Just do this one thing and all of your problems will be solved. Not the case. Maybe if you're looking for false hope, some kind of short-term relief, just to find yourself in probably worse trouble later on, sure, it's going to probably work great that way. But if anyone's, I can 100% tell you, if anyone is online is saying, just follow this diet, just follow this workout, one workout program, just use this one supplement, uh, I would run the other way quickly. It's a scam. It will not work for you. I promise you. You have to treat the human being as a whole human being, because that's what they are. They're not pieces and parts. And all their any kind of even the most minor of problems has like a myriad of reasons of why that problem occurs. And all of those reasons, in order to have a complete resolution of that one problem, have to be addressed to successfully overcome that. So, okay, we spent quite a while on month one. I'm pretty sure that kind of covered month 1 through 6 really in general. But let's go, like, if you remember month one is done. I remember you already saw some pretty solid changes in month one. How was month two?
I think month two is when I started to see noticeable results, right? Like I could see the stubborn fat sort of melting away, and I could see some definition coming in, and that motivated me a lot more. And um, I think that's when I felt like this is definitely working. Because I mean, it was working from day one. Obviously, we were seeing, you know, weight loss happening from week one, but my body didn't necessarily show it. Uh, and I think month two is when I started to see the definition, and that's when I really was more disciplined. And that's the other thing is, even if you know certain thing works, it's like you said, it's about discipline and patience. It's not that because it works, you will see the results in like, a week's time. You still have to keep going at it. And yeah, so I think that just reassured me, like, yes, I have to still stay on this path, and still keep still going keep going strong. So yeah, and I think by the second month I was used to whatever the lifestyle changes had happened, and it was just um, easier to um, follow it with the routine, and was part of the routine at that point.
Okay. Do you remember how you kind of felt going into month three?
Um, I think month three is when we also changed workout plan. So that was uh, because I remember we moved from just corrective exercises to like actually,
Yeah.
yeah, actually working towards uh, you know hitting the muscles, um, and catered towards even building some muscle with fat loss. So that was another exciting month for me, getting on the new workout routine and following that. And so I think third and fourth month was basically where, with the workouts, I was able to see more definition and started to see those abs, outline, and some more muscle, since the fat was sort of melting. So yeah, I think third and fourth month was where all the results were. Uh, you know, I was seeing all the results and changes happening.
Yeah, I totally even forgot we did a correct phase for the first 2 months because I
Yeah,
remember you had unusual amounts of tension in your shoulder complex.
right.
Well,
Trap.
yeah, and your traps that we had to work on correcting so that you didn't get a neck injury, obviously, during the workouts and stuff of that sort. So that even reinforces exactly what Pratik was talking about. See, he was able to probably lose. I think our goal was to lose like 1.2 to 1.5 pounds per week. So I mean, at that point, I'm guessing you're down 12 pounds already, 12 to 15 pounds at the end
Right.
of your 2 months. And the corrective phase, honestly, guys, was just like very basic movements, moreover like corrective type movements. It wasn't anything like CrossFit intensity, which I don't even think you ever need to even work out with that kind of level of intensity to achieve your physique, especially if you're on a program that emphasizes progressive overload. And he was still able to lose 12 to 15 pounds right there. There's another example. And I guarantee you the workouts were super easy. I mean,
Right.
they're like very, very
And
easy and
that
corrective.
reinforces the point, like how important diet really is, right? I would say that's more like 80% of the
Like,
equation.
and then you can build off of that,
Right.
It's moreover, a lot of times people view it as like a pie, like, oh, this is like 80% important and this is 20%, but really it's just should be viewed as like a pyramid. First and
Right.
foremost, you actually happen not to have an issue with this, but a lot of people, they just have a belief system that doesn't facilitate health conscious choices. So that sets the foundation. Your foundation was already pretty solid because you're already living a healthy lifestyle. You just needed better information on how to carry that out more productively. But most people, even if you give them the right information, they will still sabotage themselves endlessly and not achieve what they're looking to achieve, even if they know they themselves are doing it to themselves and don't want to keep doing it to themselves, but keep doing it to themselves. Now, that's a lot of trickery right there. And that's very, very common.
Right.
And then once that, then of course you can kind of build a nutrition workout program, supplement program, lifestyle program on top of that. But with getting that foundation part wrong, I mean, you're really just trying to build a structure on top of more foundation, and it's not going to work term if you try to approach it with that kind of model.
I think it's also self-realization, right? Like if you've been working out consistently over the years, right? Like it is the diet part then that is, lacking. And if you are not, so I think when I speak with my friends and when they are starting to do this, right? I think when they say like, okay, now I'm starting to like at least cook my own food and, just do this, I feel like they are about to change is because that's the first step is like trying to cook yourself and not eat from out every other day. So and then I think because that's how it started with me, right? It was about knowing what I thought was healthy food, right? And cooking at home. Regardless of what you cook, if you're cooking at home, that is half the battle won. And then after that point, if you do that consistently for a year, couple years, then like, maybe you would already see the results. You would have already dropped a few pounds because uh, you are already cutting out on all the um, uh, what should I say? All the sodium, excess preservatives, all that comes with like uh, things that you eat from frozen section or eat out and everything. So you would already see results, and then you get to the point where you are like, well, I am eating right now. So what is missing? And that's where I think you can get to like counting calories, and then I think I think that's the journey that I see with most people trying to uh, get fit and actually putting in efforts towards it. So that's the journey I see.
I guess it'll be a little tough for you because you're already kind of living a health conscious lifestyle. But do you notice yourself saving way more money being healthy versus unhealthy? Were you ever
Yeah,
very unhealthy in your life?
I mean, not that much, but yes, like on say the other snack stuff, right? Like although I was cooking everything by myself, I would still have like snacks, like for cravings, right? Like dark chocolate, and I would spend a lot on that. Also on like chips and such, but more like healthy chips, right? Where you have more protein and like less fat and things like that. So those, yeah, added up to it. But once, because I was cooking at home, I was only using raw, vegetables and meat. So not too much cost saving, but yes, uh, s- still noticeable cost saving because now I have the plan for like say a week or a month, and I know exactly what I need. And so I'm not like just going to grocery store, seeing like something that's on sale and buying that. Because
Hmm.
I used to do that before when I didn't exactly have a plan because I wasn't following a plan, right? I was cooking at home, but I was open to like trying different recipes, trying different ingredients. It wasn't the same ingredient that I was at least following for a week. Maybe for a couple of days, I would think, okay, I want to eat this. Then I would think I want to eat that. And then I would buy a lot of different stuff and eat a lot of different food uh, groups. So yes, in that way, I was spending a little bit more than knowing what I am going to do for next couple of weeks or a month. And then, that helped buying something in bulk, which would help save rather than thinking for like couple of days or a day. So in that sense, it saves. But I would see someone who's like eating out save a lot,
Yeah.
like at least 50%, just um, you know, buying the ingredients that you're going to use rather than just getting whatever you felt like.
Yeah. For my calculation, the average American spends about eight to $16,000 a year on
I
non-essential
could
expenses.
see that.
Or
I have friends who would eat every day
yeah,
out,
or even
right?
like eight to six
And then drinks
thousand.
too.
Like it's a conservative number. I'm not even
Yeah,
usually travel in that equation as well.
right.
Yeah, essential expenses being like alcohol, eating out with coworkers at lunch or after work or whatever, subscription services, those designer jeans that are like $200-300.
And then that goes back to that thing, right? Where uh, you don't know what you are consuming when you're eating something, right? So it's easy to just eat whatever you want, but versus if you know like how many calories you're going to consume by eating this piece of cookie, then you really think, and then that changes a lot of things. And so you're now you know like you're not never going to buy this because these have ton of calories, and you could rather eat ton of food versus one cookie if you know how the calories work and how the uh, macros work. So um, I think that's that knowledge that really helps too, because now you know what you are supposed to eat and what would help you. Well, not supposed to, but what would help you achieve your goal and what won't. And so you cut down on that because now you have the knowledge of, what eating right um, means. So yeah, I think that helps.
Yeah, I find with eating out too, you get a lot of kind of like quote unquote hidden calories that you can't
Yeah,
quite see because you don't know how much cooking oil they used, like to cook that chicken breast, although you're eating chicken breast at home. Like a pound of chicken breast, I think is like 500-ish calories. And if you go out and you're like, well, I'll just order a chicken breast, it's kind of the same exact thing I had here. This one might actually not throw you off. I'm just exaggerating with this example a little bit. But let's say, okay, you ordered a pound of chicken breast, which is 500 calories, but they cooked it in like, I don't know, 2 tablespoons of olive oil. That's another 260
yeah.
calories. Then they put barbecue sauce on it. That's
Or a
another,
whole stick of butter,
yeah, yeah, or a
which
stick of
in
butter. Let's,
itself is the same probably amount of calories as the chicken breast.
yeah, and then all of a sudden a 500 calorie chicken breast, which in your mind you're like, well, it's 500
Yeah,
calories at home. All of a sudden a
yeah,
thousand at a restaurant, if not more. But then you order a drink because your friends are having a drink. That's
right,
another 50, 250 calories. You might get a dessert. That's another like 500. And all of a sudden you're like at 2,000 calories for a single meal,
right.
you know? And if you're like very muscular and like lifting weights a lot, plus you're a construction worker, it's probably not a big deal, because your activity level is so high and your muscle mass is pretty high as well. So your resting metabolic rate is amazing. But for most people, it's not the case. Most people, they kind of like a decent, like fairly low muscle mass, fairly
Yeah,
metabolic, and then
but
not
I think also helpful. Like even if you're pretty muscular and then you can eat whatever you want, doesn't mean you should.
Mhm.
You know what's
Yeah.
healthier for your body and what's not. Just because you're pretty muscular and then you can carry off and not show off doesn't mean you are eating a tub of fries or like a tub of popcorn because you still know like that's not going to help your body and then you're just consuming a lot more I don't know, sugar, oil, and the trans fat, which is going to affect your health.
Yeah.
So, regardless of where you are, I think eating healthy should always be a priority, right?
Yes, exactly. And that's so overlooked. And once again, that's where Unfortunately, social media comes in because a lot of these like fitness influencers, you see them like, oh, check this out, this pizza, I'm able to eat it, or like this ice cream and stuff of that sort. What you guys don't see behind the scenes is like 99% of these fitness influencers are just not healthy at all. They're basically drug addicts. I mean, they're on thousands of dollars of different steroids every month that they spend on. You guys can check out the popular story of this guy named Brian Johnson that built a whole entire multi-million-dollar persona around just being very natural. And it turned out he was spending about $12,000 to $15,000, I think, on steroids every single month, you know,
Wow.
like he's all natural and just living out in nature and stuff of that sort. I guarantee you guys, there's so many fakes out there. Try your best not to follow any of them. They're drug addicts for the most part, and they're just poor influence on kids. And they know very little about nutrition and health because they wouldn't be promoting like eating all this junk food. Because like what Patrick said, it's not all about just your looks. It's about the quality of the food. How many pesticides it was grown with, et cetera, et cetera. I've gotten into this topic a myriad of times on other podcasts, even wrote an entire book on it. But yeah, I mean, it's important to consider too, because look, 50% of Americans get cancer these days. Does it all come from nutrition? No, there are many variables to consider, but a large part of cancers do form because of poor lifestyle and nutritional choices. I would say probably like 80% or so. So next time you go to, it's the weekend, it's Saturday, when you go to lunch today with a group of friends, let's say 3 friends, and it's you, half of you will get cancer and one of you will actually die from it, which is a very high percentage. So it should be taken very, very seriously. And I try to follow the 98 2% rule. Everyone says like 80-20 rule. I go 98% of the time, all my food is bare minimum USDA organic certified. 2% of the time, sometimes I do go out and eat some sushi. I'm sure it's like farm raised fish, some of them, especially the salmon, probably Atlantic salmon. That's definitely not organic and stuff of that sort. But I try to follow the 98% rule. Does it mean 100% won't get cancer? Nope. I might still get it, but it dramatically does decrease your chance of getting it. And it's pretty serious because the average newborn born in a metropolitan area in America is born with already trace amounts of 200 different synthetic chemicals in their bloodstream, which is startling because a child has a much smaller metabolism to even be able to metabolize all of these synthetic chemicals and stuff of that sort. So it's very serious. People don't take it seriously because pathology has been normalized in this culture. That's why currently 9 out of 10 Americans are 9 out of 10 American adults are metabolically unhealthy, which is very startling. 90% of the US population right now is metabolically unhealthy. And I'm sure, Patrick, this kind of annoys you probably when someone like a family member or a friend that's like overweight or unhealthy comes to you and they're like, well, I'm eating healthy,
Yeah.
And you're like, where do I begin? No, you're not, first of all, but there's so much to break down here,
Yeah. I think regardless of how much you talk about, nutrition and such, if someone does not have that mindset change about going on a healthy, uh, you know, journey or health journey, it is hard to follow, right? Like, so I think first of all, it has to be like your priority.
Yeah.
Only then you would see the change. Otherwise, that's why people get lost following into all these fads, diets, different workout styles, and everything is because you are not committed. And I think once the commitment happens, once your whole life revolves around health first objective, that's when you would start seeing the change, even if you are not, on the right plan, right everything, you would see your life moving in that direction. And then of course you can tailor and like take it to another level. But more than anything, if someone's obese and looking to change, it's changing their mindset. Just making small changes will show that you're committed to the process. But it's not going to be like suddenly because you watched a video, you watched an interview, or you came across an article that you are going to see a transformation. It is very slow and progressive thing, and you have to, having that mindset, you have to give up a lot of things which you are used to doing or used to having. When I talk to a lot of my friends, it's about they cannot give up on certain food. They cannot, keep, counting calories like this, or they cannot keep doing one of these things. And that just shows like then you are not as committed. And I don't know if you can be where you want and stay there all your life. Yes, you could get there because for a short amount of time you could do all the right things and be very disciplined, be strict about all the different things that will help you get there. But you won't be doing that for years because you are clearly not willing to give up or change the life that brought or that put you in this position where you're needing change. So I think, yeah, changing the mindset is like the key here. And then I think once you're that driven, then yes, you will make more right changes.
And I think that's so important because a lot of times when people do these fad diets, first of all, the second anyone tells me like I'm doing keto fasting or whatever other fad diet ABC, I already know they failed. Even if they haven't failed at a moment, I already know they failed. Oh, almost 100%. I've been doing this for 17 years. I promise. It's almost like a one-to-one correlation there. But another important thing is like I find that subgroup of the population, they tend to want change without changing anything that led to their problems.
Right.
So they're in this predicament, like they first of all probably live like a very unsustainable life, meaning they're working way too much, plus they're in the wrong job, plus they're in the wrong relationships, plus they're under a lot of financial stress or some other stress, plus their belief system is all out of whack and they think like being overweight and on a bunch of medical drugs is normal. And they want to keep all that still in place, but change. And I'm like, no, man, you got to change all of this because all of that is what's leading to all of the symptoms you're experiencing: high blood pressure, poor cholesterol, being overweight, digestive issues, sexual dysfunction, psychologically induced chronic insomnia, low testosterone, whatever. I mean, the list is literally endless of what kind of symptoms you could have because of a belief system that doesn't facilitate health conscious choices. And that's the predicament I see people. They're like, well, I want to change without changing anything, Okay, make it happen. I'm like, okay, well, good luck with that. Okay, I'll see you in 4 to 5 years when you're on 10 more medical drugs and feeling and looking worse than ever before. So,
sure.
Also, Patrick, I'm a huge advocate for people that can to work remote. And I know you work remote, and I was wondering if you can give some tips to listeners about how that actually helps you in terms of just saving a lot of time and saving a lot of energy, not having to deal with in-person politics at work and stuff of that sort. Because I've only seen it, especially when a person had good coaching, to allocate that difference of time to themselves productively. I've only seen remote actually help a person not only be more productive at work, but also just be happier in life because they have more time to themselves during the week because they don't have to drive to work and all that BS.
Yeah, and it's not about just having more time, but you're also saving so much time where there are just so many people coming up to you, and when you're in work in person, you really can't shut your door. Well, most people don't even have like their own cabin or anything. So you're always interrupted, you're always distracted. And so, yeah, that for me, that's the biggest advantage of working remote is like I just don't have as many distractions and I'm able to focus a lot more because it's just me in a room. And yeah, it helps on commuting time, all those things. And plus you have a lot more time to play with, so you can like manage all your errands, activities, and it just helps with planning your day more efficiently, right? Like for me, when it was about workouts, I really had no excuse to skip a workout because I had flexibility to go any time of the day. And that really, really helps staying on course and being consistent. Same with following certain diet and such, right? Like I would a lot of times even cook every day. Well, at least before, at least I used to, and I had time to, then even if I don't have certain ingredients, run errands and get, ingredients, do groceries also during the workday. And again, all this is advantage of working remote, besides being more productive and efficient because you can concentrate. So even if I'm working say a couple hours a day, for me that's enough to manage the all the work that I would usually do in a day when I'm at work, because you're always going to meetings and such. And then that's the other thing, going to meetings, like say if you have 3-4 meetings during the day, you have to be like, when you're in person you have to stay present, and you have to. But when I'm at home working, I could just mute and I don't have to be on video. So I could still keep doing my work and hearing only the parts that are really important rather than all the other bullshit that people are talking, or the small talks also that happens during the meetings. So yeah, it's a lot more efficient and you get a lot more done. Um, so yeah, overall, I think that's I'm lucky to be working remotely.
Would you say also it's like just overall way less stressful?
Yeah, because you're not, well, for me, a lot of stress also just come with people. So not having to
It's
deal with
not just
people
that's like a general rule.
yeah.
The most stressful part of work is actually your coworkers, you know?
So half the stress is already eliminated, not having to see them or interact them. So yeah, it is a lot less stressful. Even commuting is stressful, right? So cutting down that whole thing, that so much stress in general is cut down when you're working remotely. And it just puts your mind at ease, because you have so much flexibility with time that if you're at work you're stuck there for 8 hours, 9 hours, right? Versus when you're working from home, if there is like some urgency or emergency or anything, you can really attend that, and that also reduces stress,
Mhm.
uh, to just be able to do that's really important and urgent, without finding out excuses to be able to get out of work.
Yeah, I also find like, especially in Western cultures, people downplay micro stresses too much because they basically kind
Yeah.
of normalize. But people don't understand the central nervous system doesn't do very well with chronic micro stress, like low level stress, but like just on full blast 7 days a week, you know, like driving on the freeway is stressful. It might not be perceived as stressful now because it's been normalized, but it takes a lot of energy for your central nervous system to be able to be cognizant of all the moving cars, be able to be alert enough to stay in the lanes, switch over on time, et cetera, et cetera. Then there's also the aspect of the micro stresses of dealing with various personalities, social politics, and bureaucracy of work, especially the bigger the company, the more
Right.
bureaucracy and social politics are present in the company. And there's always going to be some kind of like minor friction. Like, I'm not saying like your coworkers are wrong or you're wrong, but they just, let's say one coworker likes doing something this way and you like doing it this way. That's going to create friction and micro stress because you're dealing with that person 8 hours a day. Then you're kind of thinking about it on the way home. You're thinking about it to work. You're dealing with it at work. Then most likely, you have one or two like personal things going on too, and it just adds up, and it's on full blast 24/7, and it does have like a very big wearing down effect on the individual. And actually, in terms of the sweet tooth cravings, there's a lot a person can do, but I found one of the best effective strategies is to work at identifying a person's abundance of micro stresses or macro stresses and look altering them or eliminating them. And sure enough, their sugar cravings just disappear,
Right. Right.
and they don't reappear, and you don't have to have discipline. Like a lot of people are like, oh, you have sugar cravings, you got to be more disciplined. You know what I mean? I'm like, why don't we just get rid of the triggers that are leading to that sugar craving? And then, sure, discipline is good practice to practice and attain too. You don't want to neglect that altogether. But if you just get rid of all those triggers that are leading to the symptom of sugar cravings, you don't have to so much energy to suppressing that biological need, which has a draining effect on your energy as well.
Yeah, and that goes back to the point where why this needs to be a mindset and lifestyle change is because then once it's part of your lifestyle, it's not that um, you're not really craving. It's because it's just like it's part of your routine then, right? So you're not really because you're not every day eating cakes or cookies or things like that, you don't have to then discipline yourself because this is what your diet is. And, you could always find healthier alternatives for your sweet cravings, like fruits, for example, right? And that was a big shift for me. Like once I stopped giving into all the sweet tooth cravings, is like how just an apple or one other a banana started being like replace my diet my dessert is because they suddenly started being like the sweetest food that I've been eating, and it just then my body rejected something that's very sweet. And so yeah, going back to that, if it's part of your lifestyle change, then you don't have to be as disciplined because that's how your diet is. And uh, and it will probably take some time to get there, but I think that's the only way to see like very noticeable change and where you want to be is like you have to have health as a priority, and everything else needs to um, you have to build around it. Um, and that really helped me after this program is to uh, it is about for me it is all about health first. So if I do have to get gym and cooking and everything out of the way, and then I would really focus about work. So for me work has been a second priority now, and I know it may not happen for everyone, and in a way I'm lucky to be able to do that because also I'm working remotely. So I'm not saying it's easy, but nothing is easy, and everything uh, needs a lot of effort and hard work to get there. So I think that's the whole point. It's like how dedicated and how committed you are. The more committed you are, the more you gain out of that.
Yeah, and I think that's key too. Like you meant, there's like two philosophies. There's the work-centered life where everything revolves around your work, and then there's the health and wellness-centered life where everything revolves around your mental and physical well-being, basically. I go
Right.
off centered lifestyle, and everyone that I see that operates on that lifestyle, on that kind of principle as well, tends to be a lot happier and much, much healthier. Because right now Americans are like, well, everything has to fit around my work and stuff of that sort. And another thing you mentioned is like, oh, it's like difficult. And you mentioned everything is difficult, which is true.
Right.
Because sometimes they like, well, taking your weight every day and eating organic food, that's difficult. But I'm like, dude, like, is being obese, not looking your best, feeling like shit all day, like having a penis that hasn't worked in over 2 years without Viagra, is that easy?
I
Is
mean,
that easy?
that's what I tell my friends too, right? When they give excuses about having to travel for work and how it's hard to then, have a certain uh, routine for gym and cooking and all those things. And I'm like, if you're that committed, you will find a way. Just like how if right now work is your priority, that's why you would not mind working 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, right? But if health is your priority, you don't even need to put in 10 hours a day. You just probably need a couple hours a day, and you would get to where you are if you can consistently manage doing that, right? You are making excess time for work because you're giving work your priority, but you are not giving probably any time to your health, which is the last priority. And if you're not giving your health priority, your health is not going to change, and you won't see any difference. So that's why first when I started, I was like, it has to be a mindset, lifestyle change. Like that person has to be committed to that to be able to see that change and keep maintaining that. I mean, yes, you would see small change even without being committed, but you wouldn't see consistent change over the years unless you do that. All right, I
Yeah.
think Eugene, I am here out of time now. I think we went fast. It's
But
hour and a half, and I feel like I could keep talking.
well, maybe
So
continue it another day. It's not a big deal. But I did want to close on one of your statements to prove that it is true. In terms of people working 10 hours a day, I guarantee you they're not working 10 hours a day. They might be at work 10 hours, but they're
right,
actually doing work for probably like 3 or 4 of those hours max. Like you mentioned,
sure,
with
yeah,
people interrupting you, they're on like social media. If you count all that BS time plus taking lunch, getting back into the mindset after lunch, which takes like 30 or 40 minutes. I mean, dude, 10-hour shift, you're doing 3 to 4 hours of work. Like when I work, dude, it's like laser sharp. Like I don't even blink. That's why I could just work like a day and a half a week,
yeah.
and I don't work more than a day and a half a week.
But
And that's
still, they are willing to put in 10 hours versus 8 hours because the work is a priority, they think, right? So yeah.
yeah. Well, Patrick, before we close it out, do you have any closing statements like for anyone that's on the fence about like hiring a coach or going on an honest health and wellness journey?
Yeah, for me, this has been really a life-changing journey and opportunity to just being working with you. So anyone who's looking to, you know, get their health back and get the body that they are looking for, I'm certainly sure Eugene is the guy, and it's not like I'm trying to sell or anything, but genuinely, I think I haven't met someone who's as knowledgeable as you and who has just been committed to the process as I am and has been very helpful and just in general the most knowledgeable uh, coach I've found. Like I've consulted a dietitian before, gym trainers before. I've seen a lot of friends who attend like gym training sessions over the years. They've changed so many trainers, but they've never looked the best that they want. They always felt that they are not there. And that's when you get in that cycle of like working with trainer. But to speak to your credibility, right? Like I am done with trainers now after working with you. I don't see a reason why I would ever go back to any trainer or any nutritionist or any dietitian, which in itself talks about why um, working with you is uh, has been a life-changing process. So yeah, I mean I cannot thank enough for the help that you've been provided. So yeah, thank you for um, being there on this journey with me.
No problem. And you guys, like I always say, the only fat loss program that ever works is one where you don't have to do a fat loss program ever again. Okay. You might lose like a pound or two for sure here and there, but it's never going to be like you got to lose another 25 or 30 pounds or something of that sort. So I know Patrick started a long journey now of a lean muscle gain phase. And I'm actually trying to talk him into doing natural bodybuilding shows because I just think he has such good genetics. He could really just beat a lot of guys just naturally without all the drug abuse that's associated with that, with those shows. And so you're welcome to be back on. Hopefully we can do another show in like 5-6 months once you finish
Yeah.
the program and kind of catch up from there. It's always going to be nice to hear from you. And of course, always keep in touch. Don't fall off. Always reach out to me and ask me any questions and stuff of that sort.
Sounds good. Yeah. And yeah, definitely do this back in 5 months. And that will help keep me motivated to stay on path to be certain that in 5 months I have to be where we have projected me to be. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for everyone for jumping on. And just remember, don't let the world put your mental and physical health second. The second you do, for whatever story you make up in your mind and whatever lie you choose to believe, misery will always follow close behind. Okay. So I wish everyone a good weekend and take care. And Patrick, this is
All right.
great. You're an awesome client. I enjoyed my time with you. Lies by so fast.
Pleasure working
I
with
wish
you.
you the best, and I know you'll be able to do it, man.
All right.
Okay, guys.
Have a good weekend. Bye.
Thanks for tuning into the podcast. If you've ever had trouble losing weight, or you've lost weight, but still didn't have the ideal body or health you're aiming for, please feel free to reach out anytime and book an assessment. Eugene will work with you to cover your goals in detail, see what's holding you back, and go from there. In the meantime, feel free to check out the countless testimonials on Eugene's website in the link below. In the testimonial section, you'll notice everyone has various backgrounds, are of all different ages, and all have had different challenges in their life, but they all have one thing in common: they were all able to find their health and achieve their ideal body. You're also welcome to add yourself to the Facebook group in the link below. There you'll have access to the live videos that Eugene does weekly on Sundays, and other helpful content. Thank you again for tuning in.